Welcome to Video 3 in the Recruit the Best Team webinar. In this webinar, we'll answer the question, how do I measure the traits and skills of top-performing team members? The answer, use a best practice recruiting system. A system helps us to not only answer the question, who to hire, but more importantly, who to not hire. When we make the decision to not hire a weak or mediocre team member, we keep the seat open. An open seat forces us to keep looking for the best. When we fill the seat with less than the best, that person begins to deplete our energy and add stress so that we don't have the time or desire to keep looking. This may cause us to become comfortable with a mediocre selling team member. The first part of using a system is to trust the system to give you the right hire or don't hire answer. The next step in using a system is to have the correct mindset when recruiting. It's important that you think of yourself as a recruiter at the Division I college level. Selling in an agent's office is one of the hardest sales jobs in America. This means that the great candidates are in short supply and difficult to evaluate. Just as a top college sports team would not consider a player who had not successfully played the sport before, you should not recruit players who don't have the capacity for the job. They don't necessarily need sales experience, but they must have the capacity to master the sales skills. Using the tools and processes inside the Recruit the Best system, along with the knowledge you've gained in the previous section, you can evaluate candidates to determine if they have the capacity to play on your Division I sales team. Let's start with an overview of the Recruit the Best system. There are 3 levels: screening, profiling, and interviewing. The system breaks the big decision of, do I hire this candidate, down into a series of small decisions of, do I move this candidate to the next step? The system is similar to the sales funnel. We bring a lot of candidates into the top of the funnel. We screen their resume, screen by phone, then screen by email. Those who make it past these brief screening steps are then given the CTS sales profile. Those who pass the CTS are then taken through interviews along with a reference check. We then fill out the matching score sheet and then make a decision. Let's look at the system in greater detail. The main tool in the Recruit the Best system is the Recruit the Best Field Manual. This manual contains all the tools and questionnaires necessary to make a hiring decision. We begin on page 13 with a checklist of the steps to follow for each candidate. This list will guide you through all 3 stages of the Recruit the Best system. Use this checklist with every candidate. After you complete a step, check it as completed. This tool will help you stay focused and disciplined during the recruiting process. Keep a copy of this checklist in the file of all candidates to aid you in your discussion with other members of your recruiting team. Remember to not skip a step. The temptation is to rush those candidates you like through the process. We start with screening by phone using the phone screen questionnaire. After a brief introduction of why you're calling and what the job involves, tell the candidate that you'd like to ask them a few questions. Ask each question, take notes, then move to the next question. Don't respond to the candidate's answers. Feel free to ask further clarifying questions like, can you give me an example of that? Or, please tell me more. The goal of this phone screen is to determine if they can effectively communicate over the phone and do they sound like a salesperson when they answer your questions. At any point during the call, if you don't want to proceed, just simply say, thank you for your time and for answering my questions. I'm looking at several candidates and I have all the information that I need at this point. Have a great day. Don't feel like you have to let them down easy or tell them that you'll be in touch with your decision. If you want to take them to the next step, tell them that you would like to take them to the next step, which is the email questionnaire. Say, I'm emailing you some questions. Please answer the questions and email me back your response. This is the first of several work samples. Does it take them 2 hours or 2 days to respond to your email? When they respond, do their answers sound like the answers of a top salesperson? How's their sentence structure and grammar? Remember, the way they communicate to you by email is the same way they'll communicate to your customers. If they pass the email screen, email them again and tell them that you'd like to take them to the next step, which is the CTS Sales Profile. Tell them in the email that they will receive another email with the instructions for completing the CTS questionnaire. Tell them that if they don't receive the email with instructions within the hour, please contact you and you will make sure that they get the instructions. After they complete the CTS, you can schedule a time with me or one of our consultants to review the results. If you decide to move ahead after reviewing the CTS, send them an email that says something like this: I'd like to take you to the next step in our process, which is the interview. Are you available on Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m. or Friday morning at 10 a.m. for the interview? When they respond and the interview is scheduled, send them another email that says, prior to coming in for the interview, I'd like for you to do some homework by reviewing these two websites. Please go to these two websites and review information about our company and what you'll be doing as a selling team member. You'll want to type in the URL of your website, the one with your picture, and your corporate website. The purpose of this homework assignment is to, first of all, a work assignment to see if they'll actually do the homework. The second reason is to save you a ton of time by not having to spend a lot of time giving them information about the company and career that's easily available on the internet. Strong candidates do their homework and research the company and the career prior to the interview. When they come in for the initial interview, conduct the interview by using the initial interview questionnaire in the field manual. After a few moments of introduction and chit-chat, say, I'd like to get the interview started. I'm going to ask you some questions, so please just give me your best answers to these questions. Then read each question as it's written. Take notes and move to the next question. It's important to not reword the questions, paraphrase questions, skip questions, or give them hints when they claim they don't understand the question. In upcoming video number 5, we have a lot more information there on interviewing skills. At any point along the way during this interview, or any interview, if you decide to not hire the person, tell them this: Thank you for your time today. I appreciate you answering my questions. I'm looking at several candidates, and I have all the information that I need at this point as I move ahead with my decision. Be nice and social as you wrap up the interview. Keep in mind that you're not required to give each candidate an explanation as to why you're not hiring them. Don't tell them that you'll call them back with your decision. Don't get drawn into a discussion about how well they did. Just simply repeat the above phrase. They'll eventually understand that they didn't get the job and you're not going to tell them why. This approach appears to be cold to some people, but our litigious society has created the need to proceed with caution. The more you talk and communicate with emails and rejection letters, the greater risk of saying something that violates the hiring laws. For those individuals with whom you wish to proceed, tell them that you'd like to take them to the next step, which is the reference check. Ask them to please take out a piece of paper because you're about to give them an assignment. Say this: I'd like to take you to the next step and check your references. And in order for me to check your references, I need you to do something for me. Please write down these instructions. I need you to give me the names of 6 individuals, 2 former bosses, 2 former co-workers, and these are people with whom you work side by side each day and not in another department, and then 2 business people in the community who can vouch for you. I need you to call these individuals and tell them that you're interviewing for a job with me, and I'll be calling them for references on you, and please make sure that they'll take my phone call and answer my questions. And if any of these individuals you call tell you that they can't answer my questions, I need you to get me another name in that category. Once you've completed this task, please email me the names and phone numbers of the individuals so I can call them. By getting candidates to complete this assignment, you'll have 6 names of references who you can call and ask questions. Initially, this sounds like that you're setting the candidate up for success. Well, however, I've found that weak candidates struggle with this assignment and have difficulty finding 6 people who will agree to take your phone call and answer your questions. The reference source will usually tell the candidate that HR has instructed them to not give references. They use this excuse mostly because they wouldn't hire the candidate back. Strong candidates find this assignment easy and will give you the names of people who will tell you great things about them. It's easy because they're great candidates and their former bosses would like to have them back. Use the reference check questionnaire in the field manual to ask the references questions about the candidate. You'll find that because the candidates have gained permission for their references to answer your questions, that the reference source will give you the information about the candidate's strengths, along with some coaching opportunities. In addition to the questions on the reference check questionnaire, you may have some additional questions to ask the reference source. You may have discovered some areas of concern during the review of the CTS and the initial interview. Well, if so, add some additional questions to the reference check questionnaire. Concerns may be in the areas of managing time, getting along with the team, how coachable are they, or handling rejection. You might want to ask questions like these. How well does Rick manage his time? Does Sue get along well with the team? How easy is it to coach Jose? When selling, how does Dave respond to rejection? Mary said that she was always at the top of the sales team. How well did she perform over the last 12 months? Can you trust everything that Rick tells you? Ask a question about any area of concern that you may have discovered during the interview. Since the candidate got the reference sources to agree to answer your questions, you'll be surprised at how much information they'll reveal about the candidate. Remember, it's not always what they say, but how they say it. For example, if you ask the question, can you trust everything that Rick tells you? And the reference source says something like, well, you know Rick is Rick. He can lay it on kind of thick at times. Well, this is just a nice but nervous way of saying, no, you can't trust what Rick tells you. So read between the lines of the answers they give you. For those individuals who pass the reference check, we then move them to the next step, the final interview. Schedule the final interview and use the final interview questionnaire in the field manual. Many managers have traditionally felt the second interview unnecessary and overkill. However, I've had many managers tell me that the second interview is similar to the second date. Some individuals with whom they were on the fence did well in the second interview and actually rose to the top of the other candidates. Managers have also told me that they were excited about a candidate, but during the second interview they felt the candidate had sent their evil twin to the interview because the interview didn't go as well as they'd expected. Again, at any point during this second interview that you decide to not move forward, thank the candidate for the time and tell them that you have all the information that you need at this point as you make your decision. It's important to have a team member or someone you trust sitting in on the second interview. If you're a male listening to this webinar, invite a female to sit in on the interview. I've learned over the years that women have more intuition than men and will save you from a poor hiring decision. Well, let's just face it, guys, women can see things that we're blind to. For those individuals who make it past the second interview, get a couple of your team members to interview them using the team member questionnaire. This interview should last about 30 minutes. Tell your team member to use the first 15 minutes of the interview to ask the candidate the interview questions on the questionnaire, and to use the second 15 minutes to allow the candidate to ask them some questions. Then ask them to rate the candidate using the scales on the questionnaire. After you've completed these steps, you're now ready to fill out the matching score sheet. This sheet is designed to force you to score each candidate on all of the 5 dimensions of the best-selling team member. It helps you balance emotion and logic. It helps you understand those areas of strengths and those areas that will need to be coached if you decide to hire the candidate. You might want to start filling out this matching score sheet after the first face-to-face interview. Then as you move ahead with the reference check and the final interview, use the same sheet but just modify the scores. This completes the training on using the tools and processes inside the Recruit the Best system. Remember to follow each step as directed, don't skip questions during the interview, and most of all, listen to the information that you're gathering. Using these steps along with the interviewing skills that we will discuss in video 5, you'll have all the information you need to make a great hiring decision. Also, You'll have the information that you need if you decide to hire the candidate so that you can coach them effectively. In the next video, we'll answer the question, where do I go find more great candidates?